Chris Gobrecht, the women's basketball coach at the Air Force Academy. Thanks for taking the time to answer some questions from fans today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. I think anytime we get to do something that reminds us that things might be a little bit normal, we're kind of excited. So it's just fun to see you and be back talking to people who care about the program.
Yeah, definitely. We do care, and we do hope to see you guys back out on the court rather soon. But first off, before we get into any of that, tell us how are you and your family doing? How are you coping during this COVID time and during everything that's happening in the country?
Well, I've been around a while, and I've seen our nation go through some things, and this is definitely one of the toughest times I think I've ever seen our country go through. And so it's strange, it's odd, but the recent events have made it very sad and hard to just feel, just to sort of, I feel a lot of emotions just recently, in the last couple of weeks. And I think that has turned what was just kind of a weird, strange thing into something just a lot harder to take. So our team's actually working on trying to do something to address and express some of their feelings and emotions of the times that we're going through right now. So we're working on that actually right now.
That's awesome.
But as far as the COVID thing,
yeah.
We're fine, we're healthy. And I've had the chance finally to go see my new grandson who was born in February, and I had a ticket to go see him. And right after the season was over, couldn't go. Finally said, I can't take it anymore. I got to go see him. And he's a doll. So I just got back from Sacramento.
That's awesome. Glad you had some time to spend time with the family. It really is something that a lot of people are saying. They're getting a little more time with their family. So if there's any blessing at all as far as the pandemic is concerned, that might be it. Speaking of which, how are you keeping in contact with your players? If you're working on something, how are you doing that?
Well, we've been having regular meetings with our team over the internet, and they've always been fun and engaging, and you can just tell we're all just always so happy to see each other. And that kind of got us through those few months. Well, now they're most of them are on their way back. So we're just waiting to see them and can't wait to look at them. And, I don't know when we're going to get to touch them, but at least we get to see them. That's a start.
That's true. With everything going on, you're a head coach of a Division I program, and I'm sure the fans think I know more than the fans do as far as what are we looking at as we've heard the NCAA released. They can work out now, basketball and football. So what does it look like as far as right now, as far as what this next season is gonna look like? Do you have any idea whatsoever?
I'm hopeful. We are proceeding as if there's going to be a full season. We're going to play a preseason. We're going to play a Mountain West Conference season. We've made a couple of adjustments in our preseason schedule, just in order to sort of control our own destiny. If we felt that there were some opponents that were not going to follow through on their commitment to play us, then we've gone ahead and proactively substituted some games, tried to play a few more regional games so that, as I said, we can control our own destiny. But we're committed to getting our team out to play Stanford and getting our team out to play Army and the games that mean so much to our team. We're sure committed to trying to make those happen. And my personal hopeful belief is that a lot of things are going to change about COVID. Clearly, if everything is the same 6 months from now as it is right now, that's not going to be a regular season. But I think a whole lot of things are going to change. I think we're just coming to understand the disease more. We're going to start to feel like we have better control over it. And so I'm just hopeful that the progress that we make in that area is going to be what allows us to participate on a normal level.
I'd agree with that. I really, hopeful that this will be all coming to an end. The numbers continue to go down until they're non-existent. Okay, let's get into you a little bit. One of the fans' questions is, What is special about the academy to you? And I know there's a story behind this for you, but you've been a coach at several big time programs, so Washington and Southern Cal, and now the Air Force Academy. So people probably want to know, why did you even come here to coach at the academy?
That's an easy one. I'm the daughter of a Marine aviator. I'm the mother of an Air Force pilot. I love our country. I love coaching. And I love coaching women who would choose to serve our country. I just can't imagine a higher privilege. And I think, too, that I've come to understand, especially since being here, how hard the Air Force Academy works at doing things in the right way. Not just in producing leaders of character, because certainly, that's a given, that's a big part of our mission. But it's also just how much a lot of organizations talk about inclusion, talk about not having biases, and talk about diversity. A lot of organizations talk about those things. The Air Force Academy walks the talk, and I'm so impressed with just how hard they work at being sure that our future leaders are just people of not only tremendous character, but people that don't have some of the flaws that have held back our country recently. And I just don't know that anybody does it better, really, in some ways, than the military does, and particularly the Air Force Academy. So to be a part of that, I'm incredibly proud. I love my players. I just love being able to support them in this mission. And I want them to have that great joy of being successful at something they love, which is basketball. I want them to be able to go out on the court, win, perform at a high level, feel great about that, have it be something that helps build their confidence, build their mental toughness, mental and physical toughness. And I just believe that this all matters for what we're doing.
I agree. That brings me to the next question. So how does coaching at the Air Force Academy differ from the other institutions that you've coached at? And you've spent plenty of years in the civilian coaching world, and quite a few now here at the Air Force Academy. What were the major differences that you see? Does it make it easier? Does it make it harder? And in what ways?
Wow. How much time do I, we're going to be here a while, Brian, if I try to explain all of that. There's definitely differences. It starts with how much is on the plate of the people that I coach, and they have a tremendous task each day of answering to so many people and answering to so many different missions, of which basketball is only one of them. It's a big one, no question. It's a big one, and it matters a great deal to them, and we get to spend a whole lot of our day getting good at that mission. But they also have to answer to a very, very high academic calling, and they have to answer to their military calling. And so I have to share them. Most Division I programs don't have to share their athletes at nearly the level we have to share them here. So that's the biggest thing. But we also get exceptional people that can handle that. And that's the plus side of it. They're not going to make this decision if they're not exceptional people who like the idea of having that much purpose in their life every single day. They like that purposeful living. So that's a big thing. The recruiting piece is certainly different, but it's fun because we go all over the nation, and a lot of people, they hear our message and they go, wow, that's neat. And it's not, I think in some ways it's a tough recruiting challenge, no question. It's a tough recruiting challenge. But when you believe in something, it's easy to sell it. And that, I believe in this, and I believe it in what it can do for young people and do for their future. And so it's an easy sell, that's for sure. To me, it's an easy sell. It would be harder for me just to say, hey, we've got a cool locker room, and hey, we've got a neat arena, so come to my school. That doesn't do it for me. and I probably don't recruit people that that's what it does. It does it for them, you know?
Well, I kind of want to ask you that because the next question is how has recruiting been affected by the pandemic? But before we get into that, what do you look for when you go out and look for an Air Force women's basketball player? You've already mentioned there's a lot there. There's got to have the academics. They got to want to be in the military. And they got to be a decent basketball player. But so how do you look? What do you look for in a recruit?
Well, basically, I look for Wonder Woman who wants to fly jets. It's, I'll tell you, it's not easy. Thankfully, I have this incredible coaching staff. They're unbelievable. Um, you know, they work so hard, and they're fun. They're great people, and they throw that net out there nice and wide, and we start with a lot of people. And it gets whittled down because of needing the academics to be successful here, and it gets whittled down because they have to just basically have the makeup to be wanting to do this. But the main thing that we look for, me personally, in a player is somebody who impacts the game. That matters to me, and you have to impact a lot of areas of the game. I think that there's a whole bunch of players out there in high school that are averaging 24 points a game or whatever, but that doesn't mean anything to me if they're not impacting the game, if they're not also taking pride in their defense, rebounding. They understand that the game has a lot of elements to it, not just scoring the basketball. But that's important. Don't get me wrong. It's called basketball for a reason. But that's what I look for. I look for people that impact the game. I look for people that I notice. You notice them. They're everywhere. They're just out there. And I think when you watch us play, you can see that those are the kind of players that we go after. You see a lot of kids out there that just try to make something happen all the time.
Yeah, something to be said for that heart and that enthusiasm for playing the game. Now I'll ask you that question that I didn't get to. How has the pandemic affected recruiting? Are you allowed to talk on like this? Do you have to call on the phone? How has it worked?
Well, this has been, I think about the timing on it, the timing on the pandemic. It would have been, there's a part of me that says, how awful would it have been if it had hit in November, or because my heart really goes out to the young people that didn't get to finish their seasons and that sort of thing, and how awful that would have been. But at the same time, boy, it's hitting right at the heart of recruiting season. And so it's going to have a dramatic effect, I think, on not just our recruiting, everybody's recruiting. What the biggest thing is, we're not able to evaluate. And so we had a evaluation weekend in April that was eliminated, evaluation weekend in May that's been eliminated, and now July, the dead period is carrying through all the way to the end of July. So we will have no opportunity for in-person evaluations. We're having to do a lot of film evaluations. It's also really important for a young person to see the academy, to be here, to experience it, because it's hard to relate to if you don't see it, if you don't have any prior experience with it. And so we're just so anxious for a chance to bring them out to campus. By now we've usually had probably 3, 4, 5 on the incoming young people that we would be signing for 2021. We've had them on campus already, and we haven't been able to do that. So we've missed out on that. That's hard. We've done a lot of virtual contact with recruits, their parents, and again, my coaching staff put together a great presentation. We're able to show them slides and show them videos and really do a good job, and that's been extremely helpful. But at some point, you kind of run out of things. You just want to meet these people. They want to see us. We want to see them. So it's having significant impact. I worry as much about how it might impact us down the road, not just class of 2021, because we at least had a chance to see most of the class of 2021 at some point, or the incoming 2021s at some point. We've had very little chance to see 2022s, 2023s, who we would also be identifying, particularly this July. So I do worry about how it could impact down the road recruiting. Yeah. I feel like we had a handle at least on who we're after for coming in 2021.
That's another question here by the fans is what areas are you focusing on strengthening through recruiting? And that's kind of hard, but I mean, the players that you have and you hope to keep in the program. So how do you recruit? So do you say I need three, for lack of a better term, fives or fours or point guards, or how do you characterize it all?
We like just getting good basketball players. We don't tend to get too hung up on positions, particularly since we play a lot of 4 out, 5 out, um, and we've sort of just accepted that we're always going to be a little undersized, but we need size. I mean, it's our highest priority. We don't have the kind of size that we would like to have in order to go up against the best in the nation, and we don't want to just be relevant in the Mountain West Conference. We want to be relevant nationally too, and so we do need size. That's a high priority. We're going to need some firepower because we will be graduating Kaylin Immel, Emily Conroe, Riley Snyder would be a senior, and those are the people putting a lot of points on the board for us. And so we need some firepower, some people that can score the ball. I certainly like my team. They've been young, they're getting better, but we definitely have some holes to plug still.
Which brings me to two questions that are, I believe, the same, but we'll try them one at a time and see what we get. Last season was one of the best in program history, arguably maybe the best as far as Division I is concerned. So, what in your mind was the difference?
The difference is that we had good players, and they just got older and a little more experienced. They were just so young. We were throwing them into the fire as freshmen and sophomores, and that's hard to do anywhere, but it's, I think, even a little bit harder to do at the academy because, again, they're trying to balance so much. And I think if you look at any of the really successful programs at the academy, they're doing it with juniors and seniors. The football program, they've got it down pat. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a foundation that allows those players to keep getting better and better, and then just really knock it out of the park by the time they're juniors and seniors. And that's what we'll finally have, is a team that's predominantly juniors and seniors coming up this next year. And the other difference is it takes a while to just get a system in place, particularly when most of your players are freshmen and sophomores. They're just trying to keep their head above water, and you're trying to tell them, do it this way, do it that way, and they're going, their heads spinning all the time. So I think their heads stop spinning. One of the expressions we like to use is that the game starts to slow down a little bit, and so that's what happened. Although I will say, we were playing good basketball earlier. We were losing just a lot of close games, but I liked how we were playing, and we just started to hit. We knew once the shots started to fall, we were probably going to be in pretty good shape, and that's what happened. The shots started to fall.
They did. They started to go in.
Yeah.
One of the fans recognized that. You had an incredible run, really, at the end of the season there, going into the tournament, the first game of the tournament. And, you beat the best team in the conference at that time by double figures, Fresno State. What to you, was it just the fact that the ball started going in, or was there more buy-in by them at that time? Or did they just get to that level of maturity? What happened during that few weeks there where it seemed like you guys were really unbeatable?
I think it definitely started to click. People talk about that in basketball all the time. And, we have to remember that our starting point guard didn't join us until 10 games in. And so we had to integrate her back in. And then we had to just keep getting older, keep figuring some things out. As I said, I loved how we were playing in January. The ball just wasn't going in the basket. And then there were so many close games where, doggone it, I thought we did all the right things and the other guy did all the wrong things, and we still couldn't get the W. And so those things turned around. We won those close games in the second half of the season. We were very dominant at times, just downright dominant, because we were always doing a lot of things pretty darn well, leading in the top 3 in the conference in defense and steals and turnover margin and rebounding and so many areas. But but we weren't leading the conference in field goal percentage. And so, but that's also been the number one thing that we have challenged them with in the offseason. We've got to raise our field goal percentage because we know we do a lot of things well. And gosh, if we can score the ball too, we're scary, as we showed.
You did show it.
We're scoring the ball.
They're on Twitter waiting to play you again, or maybe they don't want to play you at all. You mentioned some of the impact players, Immel and Conroe and Snyder, and of course Autry Thompson coming back for this team. So how do you build off of last year? They've seen the success now, and you've been around coaching for a while. So how do you keep them from thinking that they can just walk out on the court and win games?
Oh, I think they know better. But if we can start where we ended, they were so excited. The team just did not want the season to end because they knew they were playing well, and it just felt great. We were definitely worn out in that second round of the Mountain West Conference tournament. The 4 games in eight days just really took it out of us. So we were a little worn out then. But they did not want to stop playing. They wanted to keep playing because they knew they had it figured out. And so if we can start with that level of confidence and enthusiasm and all of that, and that can be our starting point, their sights are set on a bigger target than just winning some games. And so I think that's going to just have us tremendously motivated. This has definitely been this whole, COVID thing, throws you off a little bit because you had all these big plans, things you're going to work on in the spring, getting them in the gym in the summertime. They were excited to get in the gym. And so it took a little wind out of our sails, but it's taken a little wind out of everybody's sails. So we're all in the same boat. If anything, again, I think some of this can prove to be have a silver lining because I do think we're going to have the freshest Air Force team we've ever had. I think they're just going to be coming in just, chomping at the bit, raring to go because everybody's been locked up for months.
You're right. What do you think is the biggest challenge in repeating the success from last year? Is it going to be making shots? Is it going to be, stamina? What do you think is the biggest challenge that you'll have to overcome in order to be as good or better than last year?
Well, we definitely want to be better. I don't think this team feels like if we just accomplish what we accomplished last year, that's good enough, that we're going to be happy. They want to be better. I think the next challenge is integrating some of the young players who are going to be better because you always get a lot better, particularly between that freshman and sophomore year. And then you make another jump between your sophomore and junior year. So I think integrating them into the program. We've got some freshmen we're very excited about. How do they all fit in? But we have leadership. We have people that understand what it is we're trying to do and can hopefully set the tone right from the get-go. And we can and we have a good idea who we're going to be. We have never started a season and said, you know what? Here's who I think is going to be on the floor, and here's what I think we're going to be able to do. We have yet to start a season at Air Force with the confidence in knowing that information as a coaching staff. So we can go and we were doing things like, writing our out of bounds plays and figuring out what we're going to run out of bounds and who's going to take it out of bounds in December. We were, and what kind of offense were we going to run? And, so now we feel like we've got the formula and we know what we want to do, and we can just start working on it right from the get-go. So that's a big difference.
You speak to formula, and it's probably been a month now since I talked to Joe Scott, our new men's basketball coach, who was our prior men's basketball coach. And I know, his thoughts on things, but a lot of people on the women's side of sports at the Air Force Academy, a lot of fans out there will look at it and say, it's really, really hard and almost impossible to compete at the D1 level. I think last year your team proved by beating the top team in the Mountain West handily. I mean, it wasn't even a contest. Proved that yes, you can compete. So I'd like you to talk about that for a moment and tell me where you stand with all that, because I think there could be, an academy coach could come in and say, well, I'm only going to ever reach this level. But it seems to me like you even talked about wanting to reach national prominence. So tell me where you're at on that.
We're not there yet, but we're certainly on our way. I absolutely think we can compete and compete successfully at the Division I level. It takes having a system. The system has to be strong enough to carry you, year to year. You can't totally depend on um, just your personnel, because that's going to fluctuate some. And there's so many things that you can't control, particularly at the academy. Every team can't control injuries, but other teams might be able to control a little bit better, how hard it is academically, and where their players might be academically. They might be able to control. They don't have the variables of who knows what might take a player out of action. It could be something related to academics. It could be something related to conduct that is absolutely not even a thought at any other institution. But we're the Air Force Academy, and we are held at the very, very, very highest standard. And none of us as coaches have a problem with that. But it does leave some things sometimes a little bit out of your hands. So your system has to carry you, and that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to come up with a system that everybody that plays on the team knows what's expected when they step on the court. There are certainly a lot of things that I hear Coach Scott say that resonate with me. I like to think it's things that we've emphasized a great deal in our program too, which is your toughness, your grit, your work ethic. You don't back down from anybody. You bring it, and you bring it every day. And so I think that's the culture we've been building, and I believe it's going to help us be successful, like it has for other programs here at the academy, and hopefully for Coach Scott too.
Do you find it's easier to find athletes that buy into that sort of mentality because they've already chosen to give their life to the military for at least 5 to 8 years? Is it easier for them to buy into what you're trying to get them to do on the court?
They are by nature young people that want to do the right thing, and so that's a tremendous place to start. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily tougher than other teams that I've coached. I think we've had to teach them a lot of that, just like we've had to teach every team, every place I've been, about what it means to have a level of physical and mental toughness that allows you to be successful. So I don't necessarily see that, but the work ethic for sure, the willingness to work is there. And that's a huge thing. And I think you don't have some of the same issues in terms of maybe egos or wanting to be the star, or there's a little bit of that in everybody for sure, but it's not as big a deal because they weren't recruited in the same way. So many of those big BCS schools and all that, they're hyping up how much attention, how much we'll promote you as an All-American, and how whether or not you'll get to play in the WNBA, and on and on and on and on and on. And they're trying to sell that. And so in comes that freshman, and that freshman is sitting on the bench and who's just been told they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that can be tough. I think our players have a greater sense of being a part of something bigger than themselves than the typical college in Division I women's basketball player.
Since you brought that up, I want to speak to alumni. The question is, how can alumni help your program at this time? But I'd also like you to speak to, you have General Michelle Johnson was the superintendent of the Air Force Academy and a basketball player, former basketball player. You have a lot of alumni out there. Do you like letting your team hear from alums? And do you find that maybe they buy in a little bit more to the entire Air Force system after they've heard some of the good stories that are out there?
Oh, I absolutely think that our alums are a tremendous form of support for our players. They've been great. We have some who are sponsor families. We have some that serve in mentorship roles. They're incredible. And of course, General Johnson, wow. Does it get any better than that? um, and I'm happy now. She should be around a little bit more. You know, she was so busy with the NBA there for a few years, and I'm not sure how much we'll be able to see her in the upcoming year. I haven't had a chance to speak with her recently, but she was such a huge supporter, and I know she was at a lot of our games this past year. Always meant a great deal to our players. The the thing that is, I think, most important, like you say, about your alum being out there is that they've been in the big Air Force, as we like to call it, the working Air Force, and they can say, wow, I got to do this really cool thing, and I think you'd love it, and it becomes real to these players. It becomes real to them. They're here at the academy and they're studying this stuff, and they don't really, you know, it's just such this vision out there somewhere, and now it becomes real to them because somebody talks to them about it. So they've been great. We had our first ever alumni weekend this past fall. Never been done before. It was awesome. The alums had a great time, and they just were so happy to be there. So we're going to do it again, probably not every year, but every other year. We're going to start connecting more and more and more. So we encourage them to be a part as in any way they can.
Well, in today's world, they can really reach out. Like, let's just take General Johnson for instance. If she has a Twitter platform, forgive me for not knowing General, uh, but they could follow and actually hear real life stories of people who are in the Air Force or who have been in the Air Force and maybe are now successful at something else. It's got to be nothing but a boost for all of your players, really.
Oh yeah, boy, I'm the leader in liking and retweeting anything about a female Air Force, anything, who's been out there and done something very cool or very special. I'm blasting it out at every chance I get.
Yeah, we know you have a Twitter platform, right?
I'm trying. I'm not great at Twitter because I don't follow very many people, and I think if I followed more, it's definitely a quid pro quo kind of thing in the Twitter world. So, but if anybody cares, anybody wants to follow, I try to do interesting stuff. I think I'm kind of fun, and I don't just post just to post. I wait until there's something that's special to say something about or share or whatever.
That's good. That gets us through all the questions that were submitted by fans and the ones that I might have come up with on my own. But I wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anything you'd like to say, maybe to fans, to supporters, to anyone who might be watching this?
I will say this. One of the things that touched me the most last year, really ever since in the last few years, as we've been trying to build this program, is the people who come out and support us and have been there for us. It's been a good number of people, and we haven't been winning that much. And it just warmed my heart every time I'd walk into Clune Arena and see that number of people that wanted to be there and wanted to support them and support the players and support their efforts and truly appreciate what they're doing and recognize. I've been so appreciative of the perspective. The media's done a tremendous job of giving great perspective to what we've been trying to do. But I also feel like I want more than ever to have those people that have been believing in this team just have the joy of seeing them be successful. I mean, that's really what it is. There was an expression that I heard one time called burgeoning, basking in reflected glory. It's one of the things we really enjoy doing in sports, and we all do. In fact, if you were to ask me right now, what is our country missing that it could use a heavy dose of, it's sports. We all miss it. It's such a tremendous form of not just entertainment, but a release of emotions and get you juiced about the day. And we need our sports back. We need it. It brings so much joy to so many people. And there's nothing wrong with the times it makes you mad too. That's part of knowing that you live that day. So we need our sports back. But we want to be we want to be one of those teams that makes people happy next year. So we just sure hope we get to play, and we're going to play hard for you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Coach, for taking the time, and I really appreciate your honesty and your insight into your team and your life right now that's going on. So we appreciate you, and hopefully we'll see you on the court very soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you too, Brian.